Convocation. We have one announcement that I know of from Lucy Bowler.
Hey guys, wow, I feel like I'm giving a TED Talk. I'm here on behalf of the Pride Alliance Council to talk to y'all about two events that we have coming up. On Friday, we have National Coming Out Day outside the CAF. Stop by our table, and we're going to be offering like resources, and then we're also going to be giving out free enamel pens. And then on Friday, October 18th, we have the Fall Drag Show. We're at the midway point in the semester. I hope you've checked your convocation credits. There have been slides on how to check your convocation credits. But if you need another convocation credit, the drag show is a really fun way to get another convo credit in and have a great time and learn a little bit more about drag. So we hope to see you there. We always have tons of great snacks, and it's always a really good time. Bye, guys.
All right. So as you all are probably experiencing, the Monday after Fall Fest always feels a little bit slow and pretty tired. There were some big wins on the court and on the field this weekend, and also a tough loss. There was wonderful music and a fantastic theater production, thanks to all who were involved in those activities as well. There were lots of hours in the hot sun, and not a lot of time for homework or for sleep in between. Maybe you're riding pretty high still, or maybe you're feeling the weight of the exhaustion and midterm exams and papers today. Add to that a major election 1 month away, violence in Palestine and Israel and now beyond, entering its second year of what is truly a much older story, a devastating hurricane in the southeast with another on the way, and the many individual concerns and burdens that we each carry. Belonging in community together means being fully present together, which begins with being fully attentive within. So I'd invite you for a bit to close the lids on your laptops and to put your phone away for a minute and join me in a deep breath in and out. And close your eyes, if you would, and become aware of the bodily you, created so very good. Become aware in your body you carry tension or anxiety. Become aware of your breath as it comes and goes, this divine gift, this seat of spirit. Become aware of your beating heart, pulsing with promise and life. Become aware of the feeling you, your emotions in this moment, perhaps excited or concerned or frustrated or happy or anxious or grieved. Acknowledge the important message your feelings are bringing to you. Become aware of the thinking you, your thoughts and concerns, perhaps many racing through your mind. And allow your mind to settle on just one thought, one short word, a word that is in some sense sacred to you. Peace, light, love, joy, God, Spirit. We're going to sit in silence for about 30 seconds. And as thoughts and sensations and sounds approach, simply return to your sacred word and call it to mind. Let us enter the silence. In the beginning, before there were people or animals or rivers or trees or even light, there was silence, emptiness, pregnant with possibility, yet filled with the profound mystery as to what story would unfold. When we sit in silence, we connect with that mystery that exists beyond words or thoughts. Thank you for your presence this morning. I am so pleased this morning to introduce to you our Convocation speaker for this morning, Sarah Augustine. All seniors this year are reading one of her books, So We and Our Children May Live, Following Jesus in Confronting the Climate Crisis. And oral exams for some seniors on this book and the book of Isaiah start already after fall break. They're coming right up. It's very exciting. This is the final installment in a series of public presentations sponsored by the Social Work Department, and special thanks to Jennifer Chappell-Deckert for all of your organizing work to make this happen. We also express our gratitude to the Bethel College Women's Association for sponsoring this event, and it's also co-sponsored by the Bible and Religion Department. Several times this weekend, I've heard Sarah describe herself as an ordinary person. You'll have to make up your own mind about that. Sarah is the co-founder and executive director of the Coalition to Dismantle the Doctrine of Discovery, the co-founder of the Suriname Indigenous Health Fund, which she has been involved in since 2005. She has represented the interests of various indigenous community partners to their own governments, the United Nations, the World Council of Churches, the World Health Organization, and beyond. On top of that, she's also a senior mediator, work she's been doing for 20 years, including directing a dispute resolution center. Sarah is also a sociologist and college professor at several institutions. Sarah is descended from the Tewa Pueblo people, is a mother and grandmother, and lives in Central Washington. If you've gone to chapel this semester, you know that the chapel planning team has been focusing on the fruits of the Spirit. In those services, I've been imagining people who model each fruit: friends, teachers, family members, students. And as I've listened to Sarah's presentations this past weekend and visited some with her in between, it's become clear to me that Sarah is someone who makes visible the fruits of the Spirit. So Sarah, thank you so much for dwelling with and among us for a time and for addressing all of us today. And may we all be inspired as ordinary folks to do ordinary things with great love and joy, with peace and patience, with kindness and goodness and gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. Sarah speaks to us this morning on climate justice and following Jesus' radical call. Please join me in welcoming Sarah Augustine.
Good morning. Oh, I'm so glad to be here with you. And hey, here's a shout out to those seniors who have to read my book. Yeah, I mean, raise your hand if you're a senior who has to read it. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, and we'll have some time for Q&A, so you can do some cramming here. I'd be so happy to help you. Like, I can just give you the answers. I mean, I don't know them. I had a co-author on this book, so probably the hard parts you'd need Sherry's help. But yeah, I'll tell you what I know. So I'm a Tewa descendant. I'm an indigenous woman from the region that's now known as northern New Mexico. Have you guys been there? Are you familiar with the Southwest United States? There are several tribes there, and I'm from the Pueblo people. So Pueblo, any Spanish speakers in here? You people who speak Spanish? Pueblo is the Spanish word for house. So we were named by the first set of settlers who came through. And so the Spanish named us Pueblo because we were a settled people, farmers and sheep herders. But our name for ourselves is Tewa. Anyone in here heard of the doctrine of discovery? Do you guys know what that is? Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit. It's a body of law and policy as strong as segregation. Have you heard of segregation? You know what that is? Yeah, we feel like we've somewhat changed the law to get rid of that. And the doctrine of discovery is a kind of segregation that pertains to indigenous people. And so the coalition that I'm a part of is trying to dismantle that system of laws and policies, a system of law and policies. And we think that's going to take us several generations. So we have a multi-generational vision for doing that. And so the reason I bring that up first on this very first slide is to say it's going to take you all, those of you who are students, we need you, we want you. We're counting on you actually in this movement to bring us into the next generation. So let me see if I can get you to sign on to that vision. Okay, so I want to just begin by talking about what it means to me to be part of my indigenous tradition. And this is what I've learned from my elders. So you hear people like me say that all the time, like, oh, the elder said, this is what I learned from the elders. In our cosmology, our way of seeing the world, the elders are the ones that transmit to us what is true. And I want to tell you what I learned about being a human being from my elders, those people from my own tribe, but also from other tribes who've had the patience to sit with me and help me learn how to be a human being. And I've learned that we live in a closed system of mutual dependence. Oh my gosh, what the heck does that mean? A closed system. A closed system. That means nothing can go out and nothing new can come in. That's what a closed system is. So, for example, the world is a closed system. If we create toxic waste, it stays here. There's nowhere for it to go. It's here with us. And the resources that we depend on to live, water, air, soil, there's no way to make new ones. That's all there is, the ones we have. And that's okay because there are systems in place. You know, the water cycle makes it so that the water can wash itself. That takes a certain span of time, right? But the water that we drink, that each one of you drinks, think about this. It's the original water. Did you know that? Like, there's no new water. So if you think about it, how many times has that water passed through another being? I don't know. Just food for thought. Yeah, no new water. It's the same water. So as we pollute it, there isn't more. That's all there is. There's no new soil. And this is something we don't talk about. I think we talk about clean air a fair amount, or we talk about clean water, but we don't really talk about soil, in part because we don't fully understand as human beings how soil works. We haven't even mapped all the rhizomes that are in the soil. And my people, we call those the invisible ones. The ones who make food possible. And in fact, make breath possible. So among my people, breath, we consider breath to be the animating force that as we breathe in, that's the creator entering our body, animating us. And we breathe out. That's actually a gift that we're sharing. So I'm sharing my gifts with you right now by breathing out in your presence. Yeah, so soil is the thing that makes that possible. So think about this for a minute. The trees that are out there and bushes, all of the green things, what I've been taught to call the standing green nation. It's a nation of life. Those plants make food for themselves from light. You guys remember learning about photosynthesis? I think I learned it in 5th grade. But you know, we kind of take it for granted how awesome that is. They use light to make food, and then they in turn create oxygen for us to breathe. We are in a system of mutual dependence. We depend on that soil and the invisible ones in the soil to create plants, the ability for us to grow food, the ability for us to feed animals, the ability for us to breathe. We're absolutely dependent on the microbial system in the soil. And there is no new soil. As we destroy it, as we pour toxic chemicals into it, that's it. That's all there is. We have to wait for the long system of soil to replenish itself as we destroy it. And this mutual dependence says that everything that I do impacts all life, not just me and not just the people. What I do, my behavior impacts creation because I'm part of a system of mutual dependence. So think about that for a minute. If I am mutually dependent with all these other systems, then that also means that I'm not the center. I'm not the center. Everything isn't counting on me, nor am I the most important person in it. I'm just a part of this system, this fabric of life. So if that's the case, let me think about this for a second. So anybody here, let's see, I watched the series. I thought it was pretty fun to watch, The Umbrella Academy. Anybody here watch The Umbrella Academy? It was so good. And I think it's season 4, the last season, or maybe season 3. There's one of the Sparrow Academy. You guys know what Sparrow Academy is? Like it's the alternative umbrella people. Well, one of them, his secret power is that when you punch him, like he doesn't feel it. It just, you receive your own punch. You familiar with that guy? Like it's just an awesome superhero. Because whatever you do to him, if you trip him, you try and like smush him, everything that happens to him happens to you. I thought, what a great metaphor for mutual dependence. That's absolutely the case. What we are doing, what we are putting out into the universe, we are doing to ourselves. And that includes oppression. As we live with oppression, as we ignore oppression or just let it slide by or we're not part of opposing it, who is the subject of that oppression? We are. Oppression dehumanizes all of us, which is why we have to work together to resist it. Okay, so this is what I've learned from my people. We live in a closed system of mutual dependence. But that's not what I learned in school. This is what I learned from the dominant culture. Progress is linear in time and evidenced by accumulation. So how do I know if I've done a good job in my life? If I've accumulated a 401k, if I've accumulated a house, if I'm really successful, I have a library named after me or a street, right? If I've been able to build some kind of monument to myself. But most of us think of success as accumulating money or capital, right? That's how we measure whether we're good or not. And time is linear. I only have to worry about from the time I'm born and forward. I don't have to think about the generations that came before or the ones that'll come after me. This is what I've learned in my formal education, public school and then university and beyond. So success is the accumulation of wealth and power and security. So I'm a Mennonite woman. I don't know how many of you are Mennonite or Christian. Mennonite people often, we don't think of ourselves as like trying to acquire power. But we are addicted to security. Have you heard this before? I need to be financially independent. That means I need to have a paid-off home by the time I retire, and I need to be able to send my kids to college, and I'm willing to do anything I have to do to have that, including investing my resources, my money, in systems that extract resources from the earth and from the lands of indigenous people, these systems that bring death to my people. So I want to talk about my people for a minute. Did you know this, that anthropologists estimate that in 1490, there were 100 million of us in North and South America, 100 million indigenous people. By 1900, there were 4 million. That's a 96% decline. Among my people, our tribe dwindles every year. There are fewer of us every single year because of systems of exploitation that determine that indigenous people's lives are worth less than the ore that lies under the ground on our lands. So there's an effort to eradicate us from the surface of the earth so that our possessions can be owned by people in power. That's not just here in the US, that's around the world. And I've learned that that's okay. What I've learned in my education is that that's okay in the dominant culture here in the US because we need to have security. So I'm going to go ahead and invest in mining companies that exploit vulnerable people. I'm going to go ahead and invest in blue chip stock, which is ore. Really, it's gold and bauxite and lithium and copper, all the things we need to make solar panels and electric cars. Wait a minute, I thought that was supposed to be the solution. Yeah, we're going to extract all that stuff and pollute air and water and soil. And we're saying that's the solution. I got to tell you, friends, I'm really curious about this, and I hope we can talk about it later, seniors. If we have too many cars, have you heard we have too many cars? Like all these cars are belching stuff into the air. How is the solution to too many cars? More cars. How does that work? Like, I just don't understand that. It just seems incredible to me. So instead of extracting oil, we're going to extract copper and lithium and whatever we need to make the new kind of cars. Okay, well, I've learned that we're willing to do that in the dominant culture for security and for power and wealth. So extraction, let's talk about extraction for a moment. This is this process. It's kind of the basis of capitalism, right? It's the basis of our society. Extraction is the idea that nature is here. It's a set of raw resources for us to come and just plunder. Just here, nobody's using it. We're just going to come and take stuff out of it and make money with that. Extraction is rooted in the concept of dominion, which is the idea of power over, and it's justified in this concept of perpetual growth. In order for us to be wealthy and safe and happy, we have to have, our economy has to perpetually grow. Well, anybody here who's a math major understands that you cannot have perpetual growth. It just doesn't, logically, it doesn't make any sense. Why? Because you're constantly needing to grow and constantly needing to grow. Eventually, you will run out of the stuff that you need to grow. And we are very quickly approaching those boundaries. So one of the things we talk about in So We and Our Children May Live is that climate change is really just a symptom of ecological overshoot. That is to say, we are using the resources up faster than they can be replenished. Extraction threatens every system of life on the earth through the pollution of air and water and soil. And that's not horrible, right? Because these systems replenish themselves. But some of them take deep time to do that. It takes time. And as we continue to grow economically, that is to say, as we have to have growth, we are not slowing down in order to let these systems replenish themselves. We're going faster. And so we come up with technological solutions. We say, hey, this is no problem. We'll just invent something to make it better. Do you know how long, anybody know how long these wind turbine blades last? They're huge, they're awesome. I love going to the wind kind of fields because it's like, they look like dinosaurs. I live in central Washington state, and we have a lot of this. It's pretty awesome, actually. But how, when these wind turbines are driving down the road, have you ever seen one that's being hauled by a semi? It takes multiple semi-cars to hold it. They're probably not called cars, whatever. It takes multiple beds of whatever, trailer beds. Yeah, do you know how long they last? 7 years. They last 7 years. You want to know how I know that? One of my dear friends, Megan Rhea, probably some of you are related to her. She works in this industry. She's an engineer, and she works for wind power and other types of sustainable energy. And these turbines are, glued together with glue, industrial glue. She oversees how they're made. So, which is made of toxic chemicals, and they're just gonna go into the landfill. I mean, they have to habitually be replaced. So I'm not saying wind power is bad. Don't hear me saying that. What I'm saying is that it's not a sustainable resource. The wind is sustainable, but these things are replaceable. Do you see what I'm saying? They're not sustainable. They're objects that have to be made. And when we're done with them, we just throw them away. So when we say we're going to quit making these objects, cars that use gas engines, or coal burning power plants. We're going to quit using those objects, but we're going to use these objects instead. It's hard to understand how that works out as a solution. I want to say one more thing about renewable energy in terms of especially solar cars and solar power are an existential threat to Indigenous people. Have you heard that term before, existential threat? It's a threat to our existence. In the Andes, already there are wars going on over lithium, which is called white gold. There's a white gold rush. The lithium that is available on this planet is on indigenous peoples' lands, and already in the Andean region, people are disappearing. So they're not just being removed or oppressed, they're disappearing. Activists are disappearing, or they're being executed without a trial in extrajudicial processes, extrajudicial killings, because they are sitting on top of lithium. And why is lithium so valuable? Because Americans have decided that we want electric cars. That is an existential threat to my people. And some people say, well, I've actually heard Christians say this. Sarah, we have to do this transition, green transition, to save the world. So indigenous people are just going to have to take one for the team. I'm like, yeah, I think we have already taken our hits for the team, friends. I think it's time for us to start imagining a different way to live. And I don't need for you necessarily to care about my people, although I hope you do. We're human beings like you are, and as our systems, our economic systems destroy our ability to live in this planet, it's not just indigenous people that are going to be killed by that. It's all people, and not just people, but life. Okay, so in the vision of the dominant culture, competition is required to get one's needs met. Does this make sense? Competition, healthy competition, it matters. Well, now we're in a competition with the most vulnerable people on Earth who are sitting on top of copper and lithium deposits. We say, well, we just have to, those of us who are stronger have to force our will in this situation. Have you heard of this situation that's going on at Oak Flat? This is in Arizona. Are you familiar with what's happening there at the Apache stronghold? So the Apache, San Carlos Apache people were guaranteed the right to worship in their traditional worship area, Oak Flat, which is a mountain, by treaty. They were guaranteed that in a peace treaty. But one of our senators, in a late night addition to a national defense bill, put in this 1,000-page bill, a bill that was more than 1,000 pages, the transfer of Oak Flat in Arizona, this ceremonial mountain, to Resolution Copper, a foreign copper mine corporation. And so, according to the law, our law in Congress passed this law that says that Resolution Copper will now own Oak Flat. It's the largest copper deposit in North America. And so Resolution Copper has a plan to not just take off the top of this mountain, but to destroy the mountain utterly in order to mine the ore underneath it. And it will leave a crater that is 2 miles across and 10 stories deep. In one of the most fragile aquifers in our country. So the water that's going to be used, billions of gallons of water to bring this ore to the surface, that water is necessary not just to the tribal people, right? This is in the desert in Arizona. So this water is the water that is needed where? In Phoenix, in Tucson. The people who live in the suburbs there are going to be impacted by this. Do you get what I'm saying? Like it's impactful on a level that we don't understand, like in a volume that we haven't really seen before. We're going to destroy this mountain for copper. And the purpose, why do we need this copper? The Biden administration says we're going to fast track all of this resource exploitation because we need it for sustainable power. Can you tell me in what way that is sustainable? Can you explain that to me? How is that sustainable? I don't want to talk you into anything, but I do want you to consider this. If we have too many cars, why would we not have a collective transportation system? I just wonder, what would it be like if thousands of us and 10,000s of us and millions of us and tens of millions of us asked our leaders for trains? If cars aren't working, why would we not have some kind of collective solution for transportation? I'm curious to know Okay, so I told you a little bit about the doctrine of discovery, but the doctrine of discovery is a body of law and policy. People say, oh, the doctrine of what? It's just such a long term. Do you know who came up with the term, the discovery doctrine? It's a legal doctrine, actually. Do you know who named it that? The U.S. Supreme Court. In 1823, this is a legal logic within our system. And it says that the people who have the right to own and improve land are those people of European descent. And in our very Constitution, indigenous people are named as people who do not have the right to own and improve land. There was a legal and a moral justification for ejecting us from our lands and for trying to eradicate us from the face of the planet. And all of that is still in place. I'm here representing the Coalition to Dismantle the Doctrine of Discovery, and we affirm that decolonization is a concrete process for reversing the doctrine of discovery. So what the heck is decolonization? Well, it's the relinquishment of an oppressed people. The relinquishment of an oppressed people. That means taking our foot, our boot off the neck of a people that are struggling to survive. Decolonization is climate justice, and climate justice is decolonization. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, the fact is, as long as we have extraction at the heart of our culture, as long as we believe that we deserve to have power over the environment, as long as we believe that we're exceptional in the way that what we do doesn't really matter, or all that matters is what happens in our lifetime, then we are in the process of grinding through the systems of life that our descendants are going to depend on to survive. So let's talk about this in another way. Have you guys heard of taxation without representation? Do you know what that is? Can you put your hand in the air if you remember taxation without representation? This is like civics from what? Is it 7th or 8th grade? Somebody want to tell me what that is? You can shout it out and I'll just repeat what you say. What is taxation without representation, and why do we talk about that in our country?
It's the idea that the American revolutionaries had that if we don't have representation in government, you shouldn't be able to tax us.
Yes, if we don't have representation in government, you should not be allowed to tax us. That was the logic that led to the Revolutionary War. We agree. I mean, you guys agree with that? Yeah. Well, guess who's not represented in the situations, in the decisions we're making now? The generations unborn. Our society is making decisions that is taxing generations unborn, and they are unrepresented. We're determining whether they're going to be able to live on this planet with the political decisions and economic decisions we're making. And I don't mean as individuals, I mean as collectives, as our collective society. Did you know that our Constitution says that Indians, which is the word they use, would not be taxed because they would not be represented? That's in our Constitution, and it has not been overturned. My people are not represented in Congress because it says so in the Constitution. Decolonization is not symbolic. We really mean it. It's not a metaphor. It means we have to identify and challenge and restructure, replace ideas and values and systems that reflect a colonizer's dominating influence. This means acknowledging the sovereignty of indigenous people. That means saying indigenous people have the right to determine what's best for them. Returning land to indigenous people who lost everything during the process of colonization. And also it means decolonizing Christianity, because some of these ideas of colonization have been justified through Christian theology. So Christian theology has said human beings are in the highest place in creation, and creation is here to serve us, and we should be able to have dominion over it. And that idea has justified all kinds of exploitation of vulnerable places and people. We advocate for a partnership, a siblinghood, where we follow Indigenous land and water protectors in their movements for liberation. And we also take responsibility for changing the systems in a society that created this death machine. So we are engaged in a 100-year vision to do this, and I'm here to enlist all of your help. We really are working on lifting up tools and understandings and legislative action and movements, people in the street, to put a halt to this process and to imagine and build the alternative, which I would describe as the kingdom of God. And I'll get to talk with all of you seniors about this more at 2 o'clock. Finally, I'll just say we are grounded in the mandate of Jesus. As Jesus described this in Luke chapter 4, when he said, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he's anointed me to bring good news to the poor." He didn't say good news to the middle class. He didn't say good news to everybody equally. He didn't say good news to the people who are in power because I'm here to back you up. He said, I've come to bring good news to the poor. And what is that good news? He lists 4 things. Release for the captive. Not for release for the captives that we like and that we can identify with, but those that are wrongly imprisoned. Those captives that look like us. No, he said release for the captive. Sight for the blind. We get to figure out who the blind are in this situation. Restoration of sight for the blind. Freedom for the oppressed. He did not say freedom for some of the oppressed, freedom for the oppressed that makes sense to us, freedom for people, but only if we feel like it. Freedom, a little bit of freedom, but as long as it doesn't impact us or our bottom line. That's not what Jesus said. Freedom for the oppressed. And finally, the announcement of the year of our Lord's favor, which is Jubilee. The return of land to its original inhabitants. The end of debt. The just reordering of human systems. And friends, that's what we are working for. Won't you join us? Thank you. I'd love to take questions for people who have them.
Hey,
Hello?
okay. So, I'm one of the seniors that are reading your book this
Awesome.
semester, and I know you talked about how like green growth is unjust and all of that. Of course, I have my own opinions on that, but would you say, would technological growth fix our climate issue? Like, we get better technologies, they're already making better batteries for like Tesla cars and stuff. I think it's copper cadmium rather than using lithium, and they're just as efficient. I think technological growth like that would solve our climate issue a lot quicker rather than some of the other ways that you might have mentioned in your book. But overall, my question is do you think technological growth would fix our climate issue?
So what the book is about, as you know, is not really about climate change alone, but ecological overshoot, which threatens every system that we depend on in our world. Technological solutions, of course, there's no problem with coming up with more efficient technology, but it's not going to save us. What we have to do is halt the logic of extraction, basing our entire society on extraction as a logic. Because what's happened is we've made the green transition is that green transition is still based on extractive logic. So it's just furthering the systems of oppression.
But what I'm saying is so you were talking about how they just kind of throw those like windmill blades away. So there's actually a lot of companies out there that just recycle those into other things. What I'm saying is when we take out resources from the earth, it's like a loan. we take those, we build, these machines that create energy for us, and that way we don't have to, take out oil, gas, stuff that's way worse than, creating, green energy. So that was.
Yeah, thank you for your question. And I'll just make one more comment about that and then look forward to talking to you more at 2 o'clock. So right now from space, it is possible to see the impact of humanity on the planet, which is to say that humanity is now considered to be like a geological force. We're as impactful on the planet as the meteor strike that wiped out the dinosaurs. And a little bit of technological advancement is not going to solve that. We are eating through the resources of this planet faster than it can be replenished, and that's a fact. You don't have to believe me. I don't think there's a scientist on this earth that disputes that. You do not have to believe in climate change or even in the climate crisis to know that. That is absolutely observable and documented and documentable. So, yeah, I think that's the issue that we are confronting in this book, and the solution, from my point of view, is a different way of living in the world, a way that is collective and that is based in the reality, acknowledging the reality that we live in a closed system of mutual dependence.
Hi. I have a question. I'm over here.
Hi.
So thank you so much for speaking with us today. I loved your book. So you're talking a little bit about overshoot and extraction and everything like that. And I think overconsumption is a hugely observable thing that we have here in America. Like literally, anytime you walk through the grocery store, you can see the effects of overconsumption. So what are some maybe steps that we as individuals can take to try and limit our overconsumption that's so prevalent in our culture and society?
No steps that you can take in as an individual are going to make a dent. The best thing that you can do, the best thing that each of us can do is to form collectives and demand that our leaders create different systems. That has to be. So we are not going to recycle our way, friends, out of climate change. We want to believe that. We want to believe that as individuals, we're going to be able to make a big impact. And the fact is, that is a fallacy. Fallacy is a fancy word for a lie that we've been taught to believe. Individualism is a fallacy. Actually, we are a collective species. Our selective advantage as a species is cooperation. We cooperate in the destruction that we do. Everything we do is corporate and cooperative. War is corporate and cooperative. We have to choose to do things differently at a systemic level if we want there to be a world for future generations. Yeah. So you can join a collective. For example, the Coalition to Dismantle the Doctrine of Discovery. And together we can work on really advocating for collective change at the systems level. Yes.
Thank you for speaking. Sorry, lost train of thought. I'm curious, I haven't read your book yet. It's next semester. I'm taking Bethel, so I'm looking forward to it though. But maybe talk about it there. But I'm curious to know what brought you to do this kind of work.
You bet. My people, the people that I'm a part of, are under attack. We're dying by the day all over the world. So let me just give you a metaphor. Can you imagine having a little baby that is born with weak lungs? It has to have special air because it can't have any pollution. If you had a little baby like that, wouldn't you care about clean air? Wouldn't you care about clean air in this community right here in North Newton? And if all of a sudden there was a company like a mill of some kind that was belching smoke into the air, wouldn't you care about that? And if you went and talked to them and they said, no, forget you, we don't care about you, wouldn't you go find friends to help you? Wouldn't you petition the city council? And if that didn't work, wouldn't you try and petition the federal agencies that monitor clean air? Wouldn't you? You would, wouldn't you? That's what I'm doing. Yeah. In my case, that's my children. and my kin. That's my kin across the planet that are being killed and eradicated. And I don't have time to describe all of that. But I will tell you that my people, among my people, we have the lowest life expectancy in this country. We have some of the lowest life expectancies in the world, Indigenous peoples. And we have the highest infant death there is of any group in the United States, the highest incarceration rates, the highest rates of maternal death of any group in the United States. We have the lowest homeownership, the lowest graduation rates, because we are absolutely under attack as people in the dominant culture seek to extract resources from our lands, and as there is a federal policy to remove us from our lands. And that's how I got involved. I am absolutely struggling for the survival of my people. And I'll end with this. There's an elder among the Lakota, Jonathan Oldhorse. He's a friend of mine, and he taught me this prayer. Here it is. My people want to live. That's the prayer. I pray it every single day. My people want to live. My people want to live. That's how I got involved. I hope you'll join us. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks to Sarah Augustine, and you are dismissed. Thank you.